This is Logan Perkins of the Perks of News, and today I am with
Jason Gold.
and
Benjamin Edmondson.
of Safe Beings Advocacy Group, and
Actually, it's Gem Advocacy Group.
Gem Advocacy.
Gem Advocacy Group, and Safe Beings is an offshoot of what we do.
Oh, I got you. Sorry about that. My apologies.
No apologies necessary. None at all.
I gotcha. And today we're just gonna talk. This podcast is started, and it's called Let's Talk because we just want to talk about the things that are going on and the people that are making things happen around in Ann Arbor and the world. So let's talk.
Appreciate
Safe
it.
Beings. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Glad you guys are here. I thank you for coming in, spending the time, and taking time out just to, come here and tell me you guys' stories. So, let's start. What's your story? We can start with you, Ben. How'd you get involved?
Well, what's my story?
Yeah.
Okay, in short, I've been in education, an educator for 28 years. I was last employed as executive vice president of an educational research company, and previous to that, I was superintendent of Ypsilanti Community Schools.
Okay.
Prior to that, I was a principal in Ann Arbor for 10 years, and I've also taught for 6 years. So education is absolutely my background. It's my passion. It's pretty much my being. And Jason and I had run into each other probably in, if I had to guess, it's probably 2006, because I started in Ann Arbor in 2004, so about 2006 probably.
Way
Just
back.
got to be good friends, just good guys that were, just knew each other. So, though Ann Arbor seems large, when you're a professional, I think it kind of narrows down. So got to know each other for a good number of years. In my last principalship, I would have Jason come by and speak to my students because he was at that time he was an Ann Arbor police. He was on law enforcement with Ann Arbor Police, and I knew how a lot of kids, particularly those that are of color, view the police.
Yeah.
So wanted him to come in and just be real, be a real tangible model that they could ask questions. I'd have him in front of the school talking to kids, let them ask him questions,
Right.
and he'd, come by and talk. He also did that for my own children, and I thought that was, my kids have a great respect for police officers because of him.
Right.
And I just really, really appreciate that. And then we just landed up touching base. I don't know, actually, I always attribute Jason. I got my first superintendency, and he and I were really close before that. And I think he had a lot to do with me getting that job, getting my mind ready at that point. And then when I started working, we started working on a couple of things with Ypsilanti Community Schools. And then I just got busy.
Right.
I mean, and his life went a different way too. And then we just got back together, and I'll let him maybe share that story if he'd like to. But it's pretty much how it works.
Okay. So my name is Jason Gold, and my background is in law enforcement. Retired from the city of Ann Arbor. I road patrol officer, transit officer, so that's for AAATA, detective, and then school officer for 5 years within the Ann Arbor Public Schools. That was the most rewarding position I had in my career at that time.
And why was that?
Why? Got to be with young people, got to transform the youth experience with law enforcement, got to be with families and educators, so get a different call for service instead of on road patrol when you're getting called like, hey, the place is getting shot up, or hey, somebody's hurt, and so being in school is just a completely different environment. So that was extremely enjoyable. Then I got injured, suffered a catastrophic injury while working as an officer, pursuing an armed robber, December 14, 2015. And 2 years after that or so, or a year and a half after that, I retired from the police department and went into education also with the school district as an advocate. My passion is for the traumatized population, students who just aren't engaged just having a difficult time to attending school, being at school, the learning environment, and just supporting them in the best way that I could. And then a couple years of doing that, I just realized there's something greater. And I contacted my great friend, Ben Edmondson, and it was like there was no space between us. Our conversations picked up right where we had left off about the work that we want, the meaningful and purposeful work that we want to do, not only in our community, but in our state and then nationally and globally. And those conversations, really ramped up quickly as we came up with the idea of safe beings.
Right.
And that's what we're here to talk about today.
Safe beings. Now, were you guys just involved in gym advocacy group? You joined that and then created Safe Beings, or
we created gym, we did some things with gym. We do things with gym. We work with different entities, school districts, fire commissioner. I mean, just usually a lot of public service or public servants. And then GEM was an offshoot. Safe Beings was an offshoot of GEM. Both of them are, for lack of a better term, exhausting, the amount of work that you have to put into both. And sometimes we feel like we're a two-man show, though we have some others who do various things, but not at the level that we do them. So, it can be really exhausting to have to be, we're thought partners for sure, but, if we don't do it, it doesn't get done. So we are Safe Beings. We go out and do the Safe Beings piece, and then we do the GEM work. How I feel at this present time is it feels like Safe Beings is the nonprofit portion of GEM, which is for profit. We had to make money,
right?
So we do some things through GEM to make money to allow us to do this part of the work, which is really, again, we're not making money. We have just some ideas on what needs to be. Eventually we'll get to a point where maybe that won't be the case, but right now it's feels pretty comfortable doing it this way, the way we're doing it.
Yeah. But the track for both of them, essentially the common ground is advocacy. So we're advocating for people, consulting, educating, and with Safe Beings, it's advocating for people with invisible and visible disabilities.
Now, what made you guys want to, I know you both said your stories, but what made you want to dive into advocating for people with disabilities?
Well, we may have a different answer for that. We were at the table at my house, and there were three of us at the table, someone else at the table whose son was nonverbal and autistic, and she shared a story with us that was really it was heart-wrenching. It just really was. And frankly, Jason, I saw him sketching stuff out while she's telling the story, and then it's it's pretty emotional, but she was sharing, and he's over there sketching stuff out and whatnot, and I didn't know what he was doing. Yeah. And then really this is the result. We sat down and we talked a couple times with the person, and then he was like, hey, how about this? And then it allows other people, once they see that, to say, oh, okay, how about we add this? So I think that happened probably in June or July, and this is where we are now.
This year.
And for me, naturally, I had to, as I shared before, I had an open heart procedure October 10th, so that really messes up your mind a little bit. Not only your body. So we've done all this, I feel like, and you take 2 months out of that. So it may look like 6 months, but really it's 4 months or 3 months because I've just been out. And then, things become a little bit more meaningful to you too when you're on the mend, as he has. And we all have a personal story when we were sitting at the table. Right. Everybody has a personal story. So Safe Beings really has an impact on you emotionally because I might not be autistic. I'm not autistic, let me say, but I do have an invisible disability. And I can share that later, but,
If you don't mind, our open heart surgery, what happened with that, man? If you care to share.
No, I don't mind. It's, I had mitral valve regurgitation, where your valve is regurgitating the blood. It's not going where it's supposed to be. So I had my first open heart surgery in 2013. 5 months later, that regressed too. So they told me, you're going to have another one at some point. So I was devastated in 2013 emotionally just to hear that. So they had been monitoring for 6 years, and then it was like a quiet storm. All of these things happened at the same time, and actually Jason, he re-entered my life, and all of this stuff, I was at the beginning of it. And then, I didn't know that I was going to have open heart surgery in October. I didn't know that. Left my job, decided I wasn't going to go back and do the superintendency thing. I was like, I have some skills I want to pursue. Yeah. And then he came into my life at just the right moment. And then all of those things happened. So I'm in great spirits now, but, not to talk about the surgery, but that surgery has an impact on your affect and on your emotion. A lot of people go through depression afterwards. I wasn't depressed, but I lacked clarity. And this is probably the second or third week where I actually have full clarity and feel like myself. But, having a great friend, having somebody to just text you and say, man, you matter. You matter. And then they call you and just talk to you. I feel like I owe this guy the world. I would give him my leg, my arm. I'd give him my kidney if he needed it, just because he has been there when I probably needed him the most. So I'm very thankful for that.
Wow, that's powerful. Thanks for
true.
sharing that.
It's true. It's true.
I can't imagine. Personally, I've never.
You're young,
yeah.
And hopefully you don't have to.
Right. Yeah, but I do know.
You don't have to.
Yeah, I know friends who have had surgeries. And I just can't imagine even minor things like, my friend needed. He shattered a bone in his wrist. Even that, something that's not major, small, that really deterred him because
it has an impact on you,
right? He was nervous. He was nervous to even write because of that. He was scared that it was going to happen again, and I can't imagine for you it being your heart.
Yeah, that's always the thought. I know I shared with Jason. I said I can't do this again. I can't. But I guess I would. The human spirit is resilient, and that's part of the work that we do. You're resilient. And, when you believe in what you're doing, I don't want to go back to work, really. Work for somebody. Eventually I will, because that's something I like to do. I like to lead. But this means so much to me, just in a different way. It just touches me. The autism, everybody knows somebody who has a child or is autistic in some kind of way, or nonverbal, or invisible disabilities. When you share what your invisible disability is, people don't know you have that until you tell them. And then once you share that, we were just at a workshop the other day, and this gentleman was shaking. And then he said, I just need to tell everybody I have Parkinson's. I thought he had Parkinson's, but he said, and I actually talked to him after that, and he said some people just think that he's shaking, like he's nervous or something. He's like, no, I have Parkinson's. And he had shared, I guess that's a visible disability, but there are invisible parts if it's under control. And we were talking about safe beings with him, and anybody that we share what we're doing, they're touched, or they know somebody who's touched by it. So the more that we can get the message out, the more. And we haven't even talked about what the mission is yet while we've been sitting here. So I guess we should get to that.
Yeah, I definitely got time. And I went to your presentation. I didn't know what to expect going in. I knew you said it was at Tappan Middle School, and just as a presentation to families and parents. So I was like, okay, this would be cool. And you guys started, and you even had an officer there of Ann Arbor. What was his name again?
Officer Paddock.
Officer Paddock of Ann Arbor, right? Correct.
Yes.
Well, he was Washtenaw Sheriff, wasn't he?
Washtenaw
Sheriff?
No, he's Ann Arbor.
Oh,
yeah,
then Washtenaw Sheriff was
Sergeant
Rush. Sergeant Eugene Rush. He was there as well.
Gotcha. And one major part I took from that really moved me was that trying to mend that disconnect from law enforcement and people with disabilities. And you were sharing stories of world events that happened with that it sucks. It really stinks. And could you share some of those stories again that you had in that presentation for the listeners?
So we first of all, we just believe that all these incidents are preventable, and we believe they're preventable. I guess the basic premise of Safe Beings is to be compassionately responsive. So if people are compassionately responsive to one another, then therefore we can prevent a lot of those controversial encounters or fatal encounters or just nastiness that happens in our world. So there's been a number of things. There was an incident in the summer at Costco in California where there was a gentleman there with his family, and he's triggered by something, and he goes into an episode, and another gentleman's there. He observes this episode, and he interprets it as an act of aggression or hostility, and as a result of that interpretation, he draws out his gun and shoots this person down in Costco. Come to find out, the person had an invisible disability, and then the person that shot him was an off-duty police officer. That could have been prevented.
Definitely. I actually, that's one of the events I researched. It said he was nonverbal.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, he was having an episode, and it was actually an off-duty cop as well.
Yes.
Not even on duty, not doing a patrol, just doing this thing at Costco. And that's so unfortunate, just anywhere. A normal place. You're getting groceries, you're doing your normal life.
You don't expect to be
Yeah.
killed.
I can't imagine.
Going to get groceries.
Yeah, and the mother of Kenneth, she said this, and this really touched me as a quote from that event. She said, "My son does not understand the law. But more urgently, the law does not understand people like him." What do you think about that?
Oh, that's true.
That's deep.
We appear to look normal, everybody, but there's something that's going on with all of us. Just pick the time of the month, or pick the time of the week, or pick the time of the day. We are all on a spectrum, and so we can be triggered at any given moment, and it can be interpreted by 100 people in 100 different ways. And what our movement is all about simply is people to pause so that they can assess what's happening, what's going on in front of them, then communicate the best way that they can, and then connect with that person, and then be compassionately responsive. And that is essentially just to be mindful of this person or others, and to meet their unique or individual needs.
And so, as a police, someone who was in law enforcement, did you personally have any encounters with people with disabilities, and how'd you handle that personally? I don't know if it was you or your patrol.
Great question. So I can think of a number of incidents. One in particular, there was a domestic, where it was a husband and wife, and I can recall certainly the husband was deaf.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think if the wife was too, but certainly the husband was, and they both were bloody, and he couldn't communicate, and it was very difficult and challenging for us to be able to understand his communication, because it's dark, it's at home, and they're both agitated and both upset, and then trying to find out what really happened so that we can enforce the law.
Right.
So very difficult. The man was arrested for domestic, but it was still very difficult, because as you bring somebody in after their arrest, you got to process them. So there's a lot that goes to it, like fingerprint, photograph, and then communicate, trying to get the story of what happened. So someone who's deaf, you need someone there that can assist in supporting that, so that that they clearly understand their rights.
Now, for my apologies, you brought your decals here.
Yes.
And I can see as these tie in with law enforcement and be able to, like you said, pause and assess the situation. I see this one. You guys can see this. It says, "I am nonverbal. Be compassionately responsive." What's the story behind these? And you have more. I see that one that says, "I have autism. I have invisible disability." One that's blank, "I'm autistic." safe beings, be compassionate, responsive. I have a visible disability. I am unable to follow direction. What's the practical use of these? Are you going to put them on cars, or is it like a sticker for yourself?
Decal. We try not to use the term sticker.
Oh, I gotcha.
There's a reason, but
So this is the first iteration of an application for safe beings. We believed it would be the most, we could push it out the most widely and broadly because it's a simple decal. People like decals.
Right.
If you look on cars, I don't know how many cars you can pass by.
All the time.
But there's decals on cars all the time. So
when you put a decal on a car, it's important to you. Whatever it is, it sends a message. And what message do you want to send to people? So, I mean, from that, this to me, it's like this can save your life. I mean, but it also, you know, the goal also is that people would be compassionately responsive to you. That, you know, when a gentleman said that he had Parkinson's, immediately there was compassion in the room. I mean, you could see it. People were like,
the whole mood changes.
The whole
Your
mood changes.
interactions, right.
Your interactions change. You're not all hostile. You're not like focusing. You're not even focusing on his shakes, because beforehand you saw his shakes. Everybody saw the shakes. Mm-hmm. It takes it all. It takes that away, and that's what he said is that. Because I said to this gentleman, I said, "Did you feel that you needed to say that at that moment?" He said, "I did, because I was getting more nervous." He said, "And I could see my hands." He said, "It triggers
how other people
he
are
was
reacting
like,
to it
and
as well.
I know that people are looking at it." He said, "And once I say that, then I feel calm, because I know everybody else in the room gets calm." So imagine having that, like, to be able to put your vulnerabilities out there to people and say, this is who I am. This is what I have. I mean, I have this. It doesn't define me, but I do have this condition. Mm-hmm. You know, with the decals, we don't have everybody's condition on there because, you know, for various reasons, some people don't want theirs out there. You can feel very vulnerable. You can actually feel unsafe if people know that you have something. You can feel unsafe. So we have all these iterations depending on who you are and what you want to communicate. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that we love about it. Decals are the first thing, but we're meeting with the Secretary of State people, state senators, state reps. We have a meeting with the state rep, Ronnie Peterson, next week, because we're trying to go a lot more broad.
For sure.
We're looking at licenses, license plates, licenses, insurance cards. We're trying to get Senator Jeff Irwin from this area.
He's supporting
He's very
movement,
supportive.
the efforts.
But we're trying to get a meeting with Blue Cross CEOs, Mesa.
Yeah.
Many of these might not mean anything to you when you're a young guy like you. But insurance companies, when you present your insurance card, if it had a decal, if it had a designation, you know, a lot of things happen. So we have somebody in healthcare. We call her Dr. Amanda. Dr. Amanda's in healthcare, who has said how many times that when people go for healthcare, where the healthcare worker doesn't know that a person has a particular designation or disability of some sort, and that if a simple card on your insurance card, it would just tip somebody off. So what we're really going for is national and international recognition of a designation and a symbol. This is a symbol. Yes. People see that. I'm compassionate now. Oh, I know you have something. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to be a little bit more compassionate.
Interactions change. People,
Absolutely.
You know, people aren't trying
it's
to...
It's a human spirit once you find those things out.
Yeah, definitely. You, like you said, you're in education, Ben. How do you think this can help around schools?
First of all, it cracks me up that a young guy is calling me Ben. You know, when Logan was like, "You are who?" I'm like, "Man, sorry, everybody knows I'm Dr. E around here, but that's okay." And it cracks me up because I don't care. I've never cared about that. But it just makes me laugh. He's 19, man. Oh, I'm sorry to put you out there like that. I'm like, I'm 50. But it's all good.
Yeah,
yes, in education, oh, man. I mean, there's so many stories that I could share. But I always share my own one that I did not. You know, you get these degrees. People tell you, get these degrees, get this training. You go in and you're running a school and you know nothing about autism, or you know nothing about Asperger's, or any other invisible disability,
Something
or even visible.
Deal with in your position.
Absolutely.
Every single
you
day.
get called. Like, I mean, I got called to a horrible scene once as a superintendent. And I'm driving over there thinking, I'm ill-equipped.
Oh,
Like, I'm not the guy that you should be calling.
Right.
Like, being ill-equipped. But if you know some of these things, I mean, I think it's, when we deal with issues in schools, okay, you see issues in schools. Depression's a big one. And we've talked about having something there, but nobody would say that you don't want to stick or saying you're depressed.
Yeah.
You just don't. But it is one of these invisible disabilities that people have that's killing kids, it's killing adults.
It's awful.
I mean, it's awful. And, if there's a designation and I know that, at least I can be compassionate. I might not have all the answers,
Right.
but I can be compassionate to whatever your
absolute
issue
best.
is.
I'm not going to do any harm to you.
Right. I'm not going to send you out for, in education, it's like, get him out of here. He gets on my nerves. I want this kid out for 10 days or not when you know. Yeah, suspend. Oh, absolutely. But when you know that, it makes you pause, communicate and connect with the parents on both levels, the parent of the offender and the parent of the person who's been offended, that you can start saying, well, ma'am, we don't always have to throw the book at somebody when there's some issues going on. Yes, I need to keep your child safe, but there are some other issues that are going on here.
Yeah, once you scratch even a tiniest bit off the, below the surface, there's a lot there.
Absolutely.
To understand what a student's going through, why they did what they did, or, what's happening in their life. Right. You start to understand, and then you guys as teachers, administration, can, assess this situation and do your best to find the right answer.
Yeah. We want compassionately responsive to be the default move or the default action, not suspension or, hey, go home for a bit. And this has to be the default move. And that's this stir that we're trying to cause in our communities and around the world.
So, in my career field, you could still suspend, certainly, but you're just more compassionate about it. You still have to do your job. Like when we went to somebody, they were saying to Jason, well, if you're a cop, that doesn't mean you don't arrest them. Well, he said, yes, I've arrested people, but I was still compassionate in how I approached them. People deserve some human dignity.
Force on the handcuffs.
Come on, man. There just should be some dignity in some of the things that we're doing. And we think this would have a whole lot to, it at least gets it out there, like how we treat one another.
Absolutely. We want to transform the human experience. Currently right now, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of just
polarized
lack of understanding.
There is. I'm in media. I do my research. I try to learn as much as I can about topics and what I'm going to be talking about. I dive into it. I'm looking at the research. Over the years, since 2013, from the Rudiman Foundation, they did a study of people with disabilities in media, and it's slowly but surely been getting more attention in the broader media as people with disabilities are starting to get more coverage. And in 2013, the numbers were small, very small. I don't have them with me. I wish I, brought a print, but now it's getting more coverage. Why do you think that is? Just people trying to learn more about these? And
Well, I think first of all, when you just historically look at the handicap symbol, it's a person in a wheelchair.
Right.
That's not the case anymore. It's so broad. Somebody who's upright, who can run and play basketball or football, they have a condition. They have a disability. They're suffering. So there's this push for trying to remove that wheelchair look that people have. Oh, now they're disabled. No, it's beyond that. It's far greater than that.
Mental illnesses as well.
Absolutely.
That are invisible. You would have no idea.
Absolutely.
I also think that advancements in society, we've advanced so much. Whether it's media, technology, DNA. So much has been uncovered that it has made everything be broad now because we have the technology to address things that we weren't able to do before. They uncover, genetic disorders that they didn't know about before that. Oh, that explains why you can't breathe. When you're telling somebody you can't breathe and the altitude is so high, now people understand. So I think, the combination of that. And tragically, some of the things that are going on, people are fed up. I hate to say it, but they're just fed up with some of the things that you're seeing. And even like back to the police. I mean, some of the body cam things that you see, like
My gosh, I actually
Really?
I went on BBC and when I looked up a story about a 22-year-old was in his home. Police come in because the neighbor called a domestic disturbance. He goes in, he's in the shower, won't get out. He's causing lots of ruckus. He's yelling. Police go in, they tase him 15 times.
While he's in the shower?
Yes. And after the story, he actually had schizophrenia. He goes in the shower to relax, to try to get his anxieties out. They drag him out. They give him sedatives. Next thing you know, his heart's gone. Heart stops. He's out. That situation could have been handled differently.
Preventable.
Yeah.
Preventable.
And I read the story. They actually had footage. And I didn't even want to click on it.
Yeah.
But I was like, click on it. I couldn't watch the full thing. I'm like, how? This is horrible. You know, they're dragging them out, and my gosh.
Yeah, there's incident after incident. I remember there's an incident, I think a 15-year-old down in Texas. He has no arms, no legs. He's living in a group home. And he's upset. He's angry. He's triggered. And someone calls the police. And you can see this officer wrestling with this 15-year-old person with no arms and no legs. I mean, he's a big officer. He's got his body weight on him, muscling him. And this guy, he can't physically get the officer off of him, but he's wrestling with this person. It's just unbelievable. So the video brings to light what happened. The kid was actually charged for disorderly conduct and resisting and obstructing. And when the video comes out like a year and a half after the incident, they dismissed the charges against the young person.
Right.
And now they're calling this officer's conduct into question. So it's awareness, it's education, it's awareness for frontline responders, for frontline service folks, but it's also education and awareness for the families or the people who are caring for these folks also, so that they can be cognizant to be able to share what this person's conditions are so that they can prevent any harm or controversial encounters when emergency folks respond.
Right. Man, you will you try to get these to law enforcement locally?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not only law enforcement, but fire. We've been in conversations with a large fire department about distributing them throughout their ranks. We were meeting with chiefs, about 20 fire chiefs and the commissioner, and some of the folks, one of the chiefs said, "Hey, my mother has oxygen. She lives on an oxygen tank. So this would be nice if decal said, I have oxygen, be compassionately responsive." So people who are smokers, before they enter into the home, they can see this decal and they can be like, oh, well, let me not go on there to trigger or be some kind of trigger to this person that lives inside.
We met with, I thought that was our best presentation, personally, with the Washington Special Ed directors. To me, it went extremely well. And then my last question was, do you understand why we're here? That was the question for them. And they said, absolutely, because they know this is like, if you're in special ed, you know,
Right.
Not if you're in special ed, if you are a worker, you work with special ed populations, you already know they don't get a lot of the services that they need. There's not a lot of compassion. And I even thought about myself when I was newly to the teaching ranks. I used to look at some special ed kids. I'm like, he's just lazy. That's it. He's lazy. And your mindset changes when you get more educated about things. And that's what we're doing. But we're a 2-man show, and now maybe a 3-man show.
Yes.
A 3-man show, and doing this work. And it's absolutely rewarding, and it's absolutely exhausting, both.
But necessary.
Right.
So
Definitely necessary. I mean, I saw the numbers for myself. I mean, actually, it said also in the report that other countries actually have more specialty groups than we do in the United States, and they call them in first when they learn about maybe they have a report or a police report about someone who may have a disability, and actually call them in first to assess the situation. Law enforcement gets called after, or will be there on the scene with them as well. And actually, we call law enforcement first.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because we don't have, and we need you guys. This is important. Even if you have someone has a decal, that helps a ton.
Absolutely.
Just that visual, boom, right then and there, everything can change. Seconds. Just that one moment can change whether someone's life is about to be on the line, or they're about to be harmed, or a life-changing event of maybe getting put in handcuffs.
Right.
Also the stigma around it, and even students will start to understand if someone had this decal. And dude, I even remember in my health class, I was never taught about any of these disabilities really. They cover everything.
Right.
We touched about mental illnesses and depression.
Touch.
Touch, but not full blown. I would wish to see more education about these disabilities in my health classes around the country.
So I was going to turn the table for a second and ask you, at your age and just relatively out of public school, how do you see something like this working? I don't know if a student like yourself would take a decal. Is there anything else? Like, would it be a T-shirt? What do you think resonates with
students?
Your population of your age bracket?
No, for sure. Just being honest and a little vulnerable, kids don't want to be judged. Nobody wants to be judged. Everyone wants to be accepted. And if someone had this decal, on their car, I don't think it'd be an issue. But if I think now that since there's been more coverage and people know much more about mental illnesses and such, I think a T-shirt would definitely move a lot of people. I think a lot of people my age could really get behind that. I mean, you see other movements, they create T-shirts, posters and such, and they really move things. They grow huge, and people really support that. So I think T-shirts would be phenomenal. I think students want because no one's saying no. You know what I'm saying? I don't think people in my generation are definitely getting behind it, because kids my age. I mean, you've seen people younger than me advocating for, leading huge marches, across the country for climate change and the school shootings that have happened. Kids younger than me. We even had a march at my school, Skyline High School, when I was there, my senior year.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What was it?
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you remember what it was?
It was the.
I'm trying to remember too.
It was for a shooting.
Oh, it was the gun violence. It was the.
In
Parkland.
It was.
I think it was Parkland, when everybody in the county, because I remember a couple of students came to visit me from other schools. One, they were in Washtenaw County because they wanted to see if Saline could host.
Oh yeah.
And then we ended up. I think it was at Frog Park or Frog Island Park or whatever it was called, but. Students they're doing it, and I think people expect students to do it, particularly because I think people will be receptive to kids. And an adult tries it, they're like,
"You're crazy. What are you doing?" And
remember.
I think we can really get behind this. People in my age bracket, I think this is wonderful.
Well, we'll be counting on you to be an advocate too.
Definitely, I believe in what you're doing. I believe in this, and I definitely will be behind this and a part of your team to help in any way I can, or use my skills to help you guys and help this, because even one life that matters.
Right.
Think about that mother there. When you share her quote, I'm like, and as a parent, that's the one thing. There's many things you don't want to face, but you definitely don't want to bury your children. You just don't.
No.
You just don't. So.
Actually, my brother passed away because he had issues with his diabetes. I was obviously shook to the core. That's my brother. But I think about it as I've gotten older, think about how my father and my mother thought about that. Never the same. Never.
I'm sorry to hear that. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah,
definitely sorry to hear that.
my goal is to with the news, I mean, I got to dive into stories. That's my passion to dive deep, because there's a lot there once you, like I says, just scratch a little bit of the surface. The people behind it, I mean, there's heart behind these stories, and there's lots of things that don't get covered because we want to see politics, we want to see all these things, we want to see celebrities, but we don't want to see this. This is hard work. You said it yourself. It's exhausting.
Absolutely.
I can't imagine two people trying to do all this. You're
Three
going
now.
to meeting. Three.
Well, the thing too is that we are bringing this to the forefront. I mean, there are other people who are out there doing this work also. We don't want to discount their efforts, but we're speaking specifically to our efforts, and that how it can impact interactions on a person-to-person level, and then on the public level.
Because word of mouth is something else, man. I mean, once people really get to knowing, they'll talk. They'll tell others, and then next thing you know, you got a movement going.
Yeah, that's our biggest challenge here is, finding that those people that could be your
Influencers.
influencers, I guess, champions. Like, we're doing it on this level, but there's so many that we haven't connected with at this point yet. Like,
right.
Younger.
Reaching
younger.
that demographic.
Yeah, I mean,
think
there's these different demographics that you're not getting to because you're a two-person team.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, we do have other people. I don't want to discount them. We
Right.
do have other people that are doing the work, but not at the same level. It's Jason and I are really safe beings. We're Jem. We're safe beings. And then we have other people that we've reached out to say, hey, listen, work with us. And, we're always open through social media, too. Mm-hmm. I met a gentleman who's doing this kind of advocacy for autism in the state of Washington.
Okay.
We're supposed to be hooking up in the next week or two talking about, I said to him, look, maybe we can partner somehow. Maybe we can.
Sure.
I'll send them some of these things, and let's get this thing moving. It needs to be greater than Washtenaw County, greater than Michigan. I mean, it just needs to be greater than. I'll just keep it like that.
Greater than.
Absolutely. So these are a gift from us to you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, because I'm sure in the circles, the networks that you're connected to, there may be people who could use them personally, or they are impacted by family members who've been suffering from these disability or conditions, and it will be of great use to them.
Definitely. I'm growing bigger on myself on the Perks of News blog, and I've been growing myself. I'm driving places, getting larger, moving, and I'm starting to be everywhere. And so, I can definitely spread this.
Well, we're really proud of you anyway, as a young person who's definitely self-motivated. Love to see it. Doing your own thing, and we want to support you in any manner that we can too. Absolutely. And for those that are listening, you go to Safe Beings, SAFEBEINGS.com. We're looking for partners. We're not asking for anything. We ask for a donation, and we'll send you said amount of decals. But that's how you get the message out. We're not trying to make money. It's that we need donations because we are able to do the postage, because two-man team essentially means two pockets, and then everything comes out.
So you guys are using your own pockets.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Yes, at this point, yes, we
Absolutely.
are. But we believe in it, and that's why we have the Gem piece too, which is for profit, and we do things that enable us to be able to do this work here. But eventually, my professional goal is to close out Gem at some point, where I'm doing this work and I'm advocating. I'm going around the world. I want to be large, not small, going around the world,
definitely.
advocating on behalf of people like myself who have an invisible disability, which I said I would name at the end. And I have what's called sickle cell trait. I don't have sickle cell anemia, but I have the trait. My father does, my sister does. It's passed down genetically in African American families. If both parents have sickle cell trait, if two of the parents have sickle cell trait, then there's
dominant.
Yes, there's a chance that the child gets sickle cell anemia. So my mother did not have the trait. My father had the trait. So I got the trait. My sister has the trait. My brother does not have the trait. And there's some things that happen because I have sickle cell trait. So that's just an invisible disability that people, when I posted it the other day, somebody wrote me and said, wow, I thought I was the only one. I didn't know anybody else that had that, so I
Right,
shared
then
that.
people just know they're not alone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
then people can reach out, and then that helps others with these, so they can cope with
Oh,
them and
absolutely.
help. And wow,
Yes.
yeah,
That's
for
support
sure.
network. You
Yeah,
know, and
definitely.
for me, I was like with open heart surgery, which is that one was visible.
Yeah.
But just knowing that other people. I mean, when I went to a support group,
Mm-hmm.
it meant the world to me. Just hearing other people that had the same surgery or the same type of. I don't know if it's not well, I guess that would be a genetic disorder that I had. Just hearing that was very important. So.
Yeah, I think it's important that people know about Safe Beings team. Our team consists of folks who have disabilities also. So that's the other piece that is unique about the work. It's a part of us. It's a part of who we are.
Right, passion behind
Yeah,
that.
it's not somebody who's saying, "Oh, that's a wonderful thing that we should be doing." This is something that we experience. Like as Ben just said, he has sickle cell trait. I have sickle cell trait also. I used to play football, so I have chronic pain.
Yeah.
And I also, in law enforcement, had the catastrophic injury to my knees, so I have surgically repaired knees, these nice 6-7 inch scars on my knees, and I'm still impacted by what happened 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So
Emotionally.
yeah,
That's
and
the thing.
physically.
I
We
mean, I
don't
can't
see-
imagine the
we don't
toll.
see the emotional toll that it takes on.
Initially, I can't imagine. I mean, you can't walk. I think that's so mentally, if not, not even having the ability to walk at that moment.
Yeah.
I mean,
The first thing that popped in my mind was get up. And I rolled over on my back. I had my firearm in my hand. I had my radio in my hand. And I just touched my knees, and I knew something was wrong, and I knew I could not get up. They felt like they were like huge, large boulders on each knee. And I was like, whoa. And so my mind was like, get up, but my body was like, I thought I was paralyzed. So I was just kind of shaking just so I wouldn't be paralyzed,
Yeah.
just kind of in my mind saying, hey, move, keep moving. So, but thank you for this wonderful opportunity to share Safe Beings.
yeah, always, guys.
And again, like Ben did mention the website, go to safebeings.com. You'll see us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and a podcast soon.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, definitely.
We'll link this to our website. Hopefully.
Yeah,
Yes.
once everything's edited, I can send that to you guys, and this podcast as well, talking about safe beings, and Ben and Jason's story will be at theperksofnews.com. You also see that on Instagram and Facebook as well. And what's that website one more time, guys?
Safe Beings, SAFEBEINGS.com.
Yeah, if you guys want any more information about gym advocacy and safe beings, you can guys definitely head to that website, check it out, donate, be able to get some of these decals, as you can see. Very powerful here.
Different ones.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys, how many different ones you got here?
We got 10 different ones.
10 different ones. We should probably name them while you're here. An invisible disability. For those who
Yeah, you can
support
show
the mission,
those.
just safe beings. Unable to follow directions, that's not for your teenager, that's a serious one. A visible disability. I am nonverbal. I have autism. We also have I am autistic, so we have two of those based on things that we've heard from people.
Okay.
Pause, communicate, connect, be compassionately responsive. And I think the last one is just the
blank one.
yeah,
the
which
blank.
and that's the one. That's the powerful one.
Yeah,
That's the
for-
one that we're looking at: license plates, insurance cards, and
Driver's license.
for your viewership and listeners, if you walk into a hospital with your nonverbal child or your autistic child, and you pull out your insurance card and it had that decal, then we're pretty sure that people would respond accordingly when they knew that. You wouldn't even have to say it. They would just be able to go there to your insurance card, punch in your number,
For sure.
and then it would pop up. And we always say this is an that would be an opt-in. We're not forcing
have
anything
to,
on
right.
anyone.
An option.
It would
Yeah.
be an opt-in for families. So again, thank you, and happy holidays to you and your family.
Happy holidays as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
And yeah, you guys will be able to check this out at the perksofnews.com. And yeah, you guys have a great day.
You too.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother.